Hello, everybody. How are you both doing today?
Good, good, and
Very
excited to get to talk about this film.
I'm
Really
excited
get
to
into
talk
the world.
about this film because the two of you are extraordinary in this film. I was like, my jaw was on the floor watching it. It is so good. And you know what? It is unique. It's a different story. I have not seen this, and I thank you for that. So, Jena, let's start with you because I would think that when you read this script initially and it was, presented to you, you were thinking maybe the same thing.
I mean, really thank Sabrina Doyle. I mean, she wrote it and had the vision to want to do it and tell these stories and do it in a way that felt authentic and, moderately allowing maybe previously understood characters to be completely different people, to have different trajectories in life and have an ex-con rekindle, what it is to be a tender and having family, and then have a woman who was in her own form of, becoming a parent, and then reclamation. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting themes. So
yeah, and Pablo, for you, I mean, here's a guy, Wayland, who spent a number of years, important years, in jail. He comes out, he's trying to do the right thing. It's hard, no question about it, and then he meets the love of his life again. For you, this had to have been a dream role. I think quite challenging.
Yeah, challenging, but nothing in comparison to what I think Jena was able to achieve. I'll address that in a second, but yeah, I think it's about a guy who who's looking for grounding in the world, looking for a way to acclimate himself back into society. After being 15 years institutionalized.
Yeah.
And trying to learn how to be vulnerable, to how to allow himself to be loved, how to find love. All of those things are incredibly challenging. In terms of the character arc, I think mine was far more straightforward, just in terms of more easily relatable, for an audience. You have a pretty classic protagonist character who does things that the audience can relate to in terms of taking on the kids and being a father figure. So it was a bit of a slam dunk in terms of performance. It was all kind of given to me. I think what Jena's achieved is far more challenging and a bit more of a tightrope, in the sense that when I read that role, I thought that was one of the real challenges of the movie. I felt pretty confident that I could achieve what I wanted to achieve and make the main character relatable and all the things that I was hoping he would be. Mm-hmm. But one of the challenges was, how the hell do you make that character, Dolores, relatable? Because when I read it, I was like, she is so incredibly unlikable.
Well,
geez, I'm glad you didn't tell me that before we started. No, I'm getting nervous just talking about it. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, no, I'm so
glad. Like, I would have weighted you down with all of that. But my God, you love this woman so much, and you are rooting for her so much. And that's because of the woman who played her,
Fair enough. Okay, but I want to jump in here because I'm watching the movie. And we meet her children. And in the beginning, okay, she's a little wacky. She's a little free loving with these kids. I mean, they're all named after color blue. I mean, already, where's your first clue? But at one point when you were doing the karaoke and you were singing, with your daughter, and I go, man, she's a good mom. Like, she loves her kids. She loves her kids. Mm-hmm. Then things happen. And then I'm like, holy crap, she did that. Like, you know what I mean? But you're right about that, Pablo, because Jena, you do make her, we do feel for her. And I would think
you have to. I mean, the flight of a modern day mother, there's just, everything is sort of against you, right? The sort of hero worship to certain degrees of what it should look like and the strength that you're supposed to have, but then also like, the work, life, identity, how to have your own space, how to have your own joy in, still being a human and being a mother and being a woman. I mean, there's a lot of really fine balances. And I think that constantly we're sort of left with the, not short end of the stick, but rather just the space that has the most shame in it. Yeah. Like it's sometimes okay for a man to fly off the handle and, like it's sort of the archetype of what we understand as masculinity, but to allow femininity to have the same dexterity of, like, you can be soft and you can be a complete lunatic, you can be very harsh, and you can make decisions that feel very self-centered. But I think the through line for me of understanding and making her human was that it really is about joy. And the only way to survive anything is by finding your joy. And whether it's the smallest little thing of like, I can karaoke with my kids, like I can make this moment alive. Even if the rest of the day or the rest of the year has just been slop, you know, I mean, it really is, parenting is that fine line of reclamation and just finding those joyful moments.
That is for sure, for sure. And Pablo, for you too, with this role, you went through a physical transformation. I mean, we know that you can ride motorcycles, so that's great. But physically, you had to kind of, you know, wow, that must have been a bit of a tough go, I think. I don't know.
No, it was pretty easy. I just ate a lot. I was coming off a project where, I was coming off a project where I was already very physically fit, so the muscle base was there, but I was very lean, and so I just took the 2 or 3 months after I finished that project to basically eat everything I wanted, and because I already had the muscle structure underneath it, it just kind of ballooned, and so I stayed large and girthy looking. I didn't get like overly fat. It was, so it, you know, it just landed in the place that I had wanted it to, sort of by chance. But it didn't feel like that hard of a job. It felt like a bit of a liberation after, you know, starving myself.
Cool. That's fun. That's always fun. Jen, I gotta say, look, I interviewed you when you were 12-ish, like when you.
Oh, sweet.
I know I only look 20. But yes, we go way back. And I do recall when I did interview you way back when, one thing that stood out for me was you always had your crap together. Like you were a grounded, really smart kid. And I was wondering, when you were working with these children, having come from the background that you had, what did you do to put them at ease? How did you bond with them? And did you give them any advice? Because they are, all three of them are fantastic in this film.
Yeah, they're really incredible. And they were really brave and courageous. I mean, I think for me, even prior to having children, when I would encounter or know that I was working on a job that had a young actor on set, I mean, I sort of became, I mean, it's sort of my, like, I should like become that child's biggest advocate or just ally, because I know what it was like. And, you know, you can sort of know how hard it is to enter into something where there's so much new terminology and new rituals. And I mean, children are truth beacons. And I feel like their presence on set just demands not only for us to instantly be in a state of surprise and authenticity, but also just like you want to be a good leader.
Yeah.
You want to demonstrate how to be a good actor, a good human, how to be respectful, because they're going to learn, you know, by just watching, right? And I know for me, I learned the most not by what people were like, you know, Jena, you got to do this. Like that's when I'd start tuning out. But I would tune in when I could just watch someone be who they were on set. And so I love working with child actors because it just makes you become the best version of yourself. You know, yeah. I mean, it's challenging, but amen. I mean, it should be challenging.
And Pablo, how about working with them for you? Because it was a beautiful transition, the way the characters, I don't want to give anything away, but I loved seeing you with these kids. It really warmed my heart to see this character with these kids.
Yeah, no, similar to how Jena felt it. I took it as a real responsibility to make sure that they, you know, had the space and freedom to give their best performances and to not feel self-conscious. And it was very clear early on that Jena was taking care of her end on everything that she just said. And so, and you know, when you're working with a first-time director who wrote an amazing script, but she's making her first movie, she only has so much bandwidth, you know, at a given moment to take care of what's happening around, and that's not always going to be her first priority, is making sure the kids are comfortable or that there's space for them to do that. So it did oftentimes not only fall on us to do it, but we were both very happy and eager to try to create that for them.
Yeah, it was wonderful to watch. And lastly, I'm just gonna wrap it up, but Jena, did you
snacks? Really,
well,
the way that any kids are.
Yeah, gotta have the snacks, of course.
Yeah, well, just snacks. I remember bringing so many different snacks to set, and it's like always the way to them.
Always the way to go. Before I just gotta wrap it up, but Jena, did you ever think in your career that you would be swimming in a mermaid's tail?
Oh my God. I mean, one hopes, I mean, one has the greatest hope, but no, this was definitely one of the best experiences. You get to do so many cool things, learn things as an actor. I mean, it's one of the best gifts. But this was, in a dive bar in Sacramento. I mean, that's some pretty high, amazing stuff right there. So
I'd say
we went to Sacramento to shoot that sequence, and there were all these professional mermaids swimming
my
around
commanders and chiefs
for a living, and Jena had to go in right after them, and she knocked it out.
Well, Pablo, were you jealous that you didn't get to put on the tail, or did you? We just don't see it.
I've never admitted this before, but yes, I was a little jealous. We got
to do a little mermaid acting. There was some underwater stuff we kind of.
There was, with the wig. There was some English.
For the DVD release, I look forward to that, my friends.
No, I forgot. We did a whole sequence where I got tied to the bottom of the pool and had to be in scuba, breathing through a breather. And
that was a real thing.
I'm actually scuba trained. And so I thought, no problem. It's going to be totally fine. No big deal. And I had a bit of a panic attack when I got in there, because once they tie you off to the bottom,
yes,
I don't know. My heart started going fast. It was a scary moment.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, listen, you guys are terrific in this film. As I said, it's wonderful. And thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciated it. Best of luck with it. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you for getting
nice to see you again.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.